everyone, welcome to my channel. So after yesterday's video, I got a lot of response on just asking questions, private messages, comments, and asking for like resources. What do I use? What do I do to get me to where I am today? And so if you want to hear a little bit about my testimony, you can go to my homemaking video. I'll link that down below. And I just talk about kind of how I came to where I am, my homemaking story. But short version, I grew up in church, and as a child, my parents were at church every time the door was open. And so I grew up with a wealth of just biblical knowledge. I knew a lot of stories, I knew a lot of verses, I knew a lot of the songs, things like that. But then as an adult, there was a disconnect between the knowledge and walking in obedience. And I didn't know that was my missing link. That I just felt like I wanted to be closer to God. Why am I not closer to God? And then obviously I discovered that I am a fallen, wretched sinner, and I needed to walk in obedience after this heart change that I had. And that biblical knowledge is nothing without obedience. And I'm not going to become this godly woman without actually chiseling away my flesh and actually becoming the Spirit. So that being said, I was asked yesterday different resources that I use, and it was really hard for me to like grasp like certain resources because I have used a lot and weeded out a lot throughout the years. So getting into it, this video is just going to be compiled of, I have like a stack of books over here. So for you book junkies, you're going to be happy about this. I also have podcasts and things I'm going to share. So stay tuned. If you don't see something in the beginning of books, and if you're not a book person, I will be sharing things later that I did as well. Getting right into it, the first thing that I did was, you guys, I got into the Word. This is my Bible, one that my husband, Brennan, is here with us, and he's falling asleep on my back. I can feel him. So if you see me bouncing, I'm sorry. This is real life. So this is my Bible, and this is a journaling Bible. And I wanted one of these because, you guys, the Bible is supposed to be our textbook for life. We're not supposed to just take it to church on Sunday and not look at it. We're supposed to highlight, like you're in a class because you're learning, highlight, write, ponder, all the things. So I have tabs in here, I've written in here, all the things, because this is your, like I said, textbook for life. So I only use word for word translations, and without getting a whole bunch into it, there's two different kinds of translations. You have your word for word and your thought for thought. And so I want to err on the side of God's word only. So I only use the King James, New King James, and ESV versions. And this is a New King James as well. I will link this Bible below because I have been asked. I've shown it on Instagram, and I got this off of Amazon, or my husband bought it for me off of Amazon, and I will link it below. The next Bible I used was the ESV Study Bible, and I like this one because it has a lot of extra. I don't mark in this one. This is more just for study and reference, and there's a lot of maps and stuff in it. But if you look at a verse, you can come down here and it gives you a lot of either backstory or context or definition of words and things like that. And like I said, there's maps and stuff in it. So I did use that as well in the beginning. Just getting into the word. You talk to God through prayer. God talks to you through reading his word. And even if you read something one time, and you come back to it again, you're going to be at a different stage, and he might reveal through divine revelation to you something else that's the same verse. So I really suggest, if you're just wanting to know God, even reading through Proverbs, there's 31 chapters. You can read it through in a month, one chapter a day, and just getting into the word. So that was the first thing I did. Another thing I did is I got books, and I'm a bookie. I love books. And if you're not really a book person, I think a lot of these might be available on Audible. I know for sure there's two because I got them on Audible. Anyways, one of my favorite books, I'm reading through this again. Stephanie, we need to get on it. We need to get back on it. But I'm reading through this again with one of my friends. And this is the Christian Homemakers Handbook. I will link this below as well. This just goes through all types of stuff, you guys. Just from the feminist impact on women, God's design for the home is part 1. Part 2 is God's view of the sanctity of life. Part 3 is foundations for parenting. Part 4 is the practical aspects of establishing a home. Part 5, planning, preparing healthy meals. And part 6 is making wise clothing decisions. And it's kind of like one of those books, like you can go to the part that you are specifically looking for. I'm reading through it with a friend right now, but it really is one of those books that you can just open to, like, hey, I want to do God's design for the home. I'm working on that right now. Or, I'm kind of past that, and I'm just struggling with motherhood and parenting, and so this is it's a good book, and they did their due diligence in quoting scripture and adding. They have tons of additional resources that they use. They cite everything in here. Good book. Another book that I read, a much easier read, is this A Wife After God, Drawing Closer to God and Your Husband. This is from the Unveiled Wife, Jennifer Smith. I've shared this before. I also have her 30 Prayers for Your Husband. They are such sweet people. They also have a podcast if you're into podcasts. But I really did enjoy this. This is also one that you can write in, I believe, but I just kind of talked through it. I had a journal that I wrote questions in, just so that if I wanted to ever go back through it or, loan it out. But I really just loved her prayers in here and just really getting into kind of like with a fine tooth comb of just being a wife after God. Another study, now this, I'm going to warn y'all, The Excellent Wife, she pries, okay? She's trying to peel that onion back. And this is a 2-part study I did with some women in Florida. And it comes with a companion that you can buy with it. And we wrote our answers in here. And it's kind of like a fill in the blank. It's right out of the book, but it's just good to go back after you read to really think about what she says. But I do recommend The Excellent Wife. It's by Martha Peace. And I would definitely go back there and read this again just to really reground your brain in God's teachings. I also was asked if I had any marriage resources. This is a study me and my husband did together. This is Marriage God's Way by Scott LaPierre. This also is a book and a workbook, and you guys, the workbook is going to ask some challenging questions. It's going to really get you thinking about things and talking. And sometimes this was like easy, and we were able just to like go and just talk about so many other things. And sometimes it was like, we really need to talk about that. But it's so necessary, and we really did enjoy this, and this really did open our eyes to just God's view of marriage. And I will do maybe another video on my thoughts on marriage and what I've learned in God's things and everything. The last book I'm going to share today is Changed into His Image, God's Plan for Transforming Your Life. I also did this study with some other women, and it's just a book you read through, and I think there is also like questions. Yeah, there is. And there's also a companion book you can get for this. We just had them printed off. That's why this is in here, because it's printed off. But it is also a very just not pertaining just to women. This is just Christians in general. Very good. That being said, that's all the books I'm going to share today. I love books. I have like cabinets full of them. It's kind of a problem. So if you want to have motherhood books, homeschool books, any of those books, comment down below. I will do another one on those. But just realigning, just reading truth, reading the Bible, reading resources that I knew were biblically aligned, weeding out false prophets. Pretty much any mainstream pastors and media I just stayed away from. I highly recommend watching The American Gospel. It's available on Amazon Prime. And I think there's a number 2. I have not watched that one, but I know for sure the number 1. I also started just I took a time to just listen to Christian music only, and then I went to just hymns only for a while, just to clear my mind of anything, just to reground me. Me and my husband love music, from like oldies to modern day country, but I just took a time to just step away from music and just did Christian. And like I said, I went down to just hymns as well. I also was asked for children, what I do for my kids. So if you guys want a video on just kid family resources and what we do as a family, comment down below, let me know, and I will do a video on that. Um, Getting into like podcasts. So me and my husband stumbled upon a podcast called, what was it? The Christian Marriage by Dale Partridge and his wife Veronica. It's now Real Christianity is his uh, YouTube. I will link it down below, and you can go back, and he has a whole playlist of the marriage ones. It was their original, I think it was from like 2-3 years ago, but we have watched every single one of it. It's a recorded podcast, and you can also listen to them on Spotify for sure as well. And I loved his marriage ones, and the ones that they talked about just everything about marriage, and they talked about the husband's role and the wife's role, and just maybe some things that we come across like modesty, and just tons of different things. Bible translations is one. And now his new podcast, they changed the name to Real Christianity to broaden the scope. I have listened to some. I'm not a big podcast one. I was faithful to that first one, but I have listened to some of them, and I do stand behind what he says. So that's a really good podcast. Their mentors also have one, and I believe that one is Faithful Marriage. I will find it. I will link it down below. And also the lady that did The Wife After God, they have Marriage After God, and they have a podcast as well. So those are kind of some podcasts. I also follow for sermons. I also got asked for sermons. I listen to Paul Washer, you guys. He tells it like it is. I love his sermons. He has some strictly for biblical womanhood, and I listen to any ones I can come across. Some of them are old, but he is just a really good interpreter of the word. So I have watched a lot of his and rewatched a lot of his. The G3 conference has some. Bodie Bauckham. I'm drawing a blank, but so search some sermons online. Usually you can get some that are around that from like Heart Cry Ministry, which is Paul Washer's ministry, has some sermons on there as well. But really, you guys, just get into the word. I'm telling you, God will reveal what he wants you to know. He moved, but he's sleeping. He will reveal what he wants you to know. And just start working through it. And just start saying, I'm trying to step diligently today. I'm going to step diligently today. And you're going to have to give up some things. And you're going to have to change some things. And you're going to have to just really break down your flesh. That's just what it is. But I hope that these resources were helpful to you. I will try to link as much as I can. I think I can link pretty much everything below. And if you have any more questions for me, I love them. I want to share the word. I want to empower women, encourage women to get to where I am and further than me. And I have not yet reached the top. I am still walking and trudging and stumbling and falling. But momentum is forward, right? So we'll never be perfect, but we can just strive. So that being said, if you like videos like this, comment down below, like, subscribe, hit that notification button, share my channel. Let me know what you guys want to see from me next, and I will get that out there when I can. So bye guys. Have a blessed day.